wasn't last week, it's 3 weeks. Tzava Nafshi. Tzava Nafshi to say a shvuz. Such good listeners and attentively and listen so enthusiastically, it's encouraging. Kadosh Baruch Hu always sends the thoughts according to the tzibur. Because the person that speaks to the tzibur, later, is only a pipeline. And that's the pshat. And Torah should say, it says in Sechasavos, Talmidai Yoisei Kula. He said he learned more than his Talmidim. It says because the Kadosh Baruch Hu, according to the Talmidim, he gives the Rav Torah. Because the Torah is not for the Rav, it's for the Talmidim. So if he has Talmidim, he gets the Torah which you will never get to. And I feel that here in the Machshavos that come. So let's begin with some things. I'm sharing you some Machshavos, Kesek Machshavos connected with the Parasha. First of all, there's an interesting Gemara. Objectively, we'll talk about it, and then what could be the pshat. But first, there's objective facts. There's a medrash like this: Shalosh hayu ba'otot eitzah hava nischak malay. Paroi back in Mitzrayim in Egypt. Paroi says, what are we going to do about this nation that's multiplying so much? And usually the guy thinks that the Jew is like him. He says they're not loyal to us. No reason to be chaysh, they're not loyal. An enemy is going to come, and they're going to be with the enemy, and we're going to have to leave the land. We have to do something about it. These Jews are too much multiplying. We have to do something. Find the Jewish solution. So they decided to subjugate them in slavery. Who were the three people that Paroi, so says the Medrash, whatever it means. The Medrash says this, who were the three people that Paroi took advice with? 3 people. Their names were specifically Yitro, Bilam, and Eruv. So the history of Bilam begins in Mitzrayim, according to the Medrash. Now let's analyze over here what happened with these 3 people. It's very interesting. I don't know the pshat. I'm going to propose the pshat, but it's something fascinating. If you notice, Eov wrote a book, say to Eov. Bilam also wrote a book, Pashas Bilam, Nevuas Bilam. And Yisrael, he also wrote a book, Pashas Yisrael. Each one wrote Divrei Torah. Good explain. All those 3 brought specifically Torah to this world. I don't know the pshat. It's something to think about. Something to think about. We have Rama Nikra Shema Yisrael because he was Moisif a parsha of the Torah. The word Yisrael is Melashon Yetet, to add. Extra. Bilam, it says Moshe Rabbeinu wrote Parshas, he said Torah's Moshe, and he wrote Parshas Bilam. The Parsha of Bilam is not the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. This needs an explanation. Explain some things in some introduction. What was the Eitzah that they gave? That Eitzah it says like this: Bilam gave the Eitzah to subjugate the Jews in Egypt. Yitro said he wants to have nothing to do with it. He ran away. Eov Shatak. He didn't say yes, didn't say no. So it says that Eov, because he didn't run away and wasn't Meicha, he didn't protest, he got Yisurim. Yitro, that ran away, was Zeicha, was merited to become part of Klal Yisrael. And Bilam had his end, who gave the Eitzah. That's one. Second, the whole Torah, even when we have in the Torah the parsha of Avos, it's not the Nevuah. Even when the Torah tells us that Hashem spoke to Avraham Avinu, we don't relate to this per se as the Nevuah of Avraham Avinu. It is Torah's Moshe, because Moshe Rabbeinu was, his Nevuah is not on the same level of Nevuah of all the others. That's one of the 13 principles of faith of the Rambam. Ani ma'amin shel Moshe Rabbeinu hu adon kol hanavim. Nobody, no Navi was like him before, and no Navi was like him will be like him afterwards. Even Melech HaMashiach. Moshe Rabbeinu was adon because he's the master of all the Navim. What does it mean? Kol Hanevim, this has to be explained for a minute. We have to explain this. Kol Hanevim Misnavim Vaspakaria She'edoni. Moshe Rabbeinu is Misnavim Vaspakaria Hamikino. That means like this. The Nevi'im were like a glass with a color on it. And the light goes through the glass, but the glass has a color. So it stains the light that comes through. The glass influences the prophecy. There's some kind of a compound between the Dvar Hashem, how it's absorbed in the Navi. There is a personal tinge involved in the Nevuah. But Moshe Rabbeinu is like a pure glass. Moshe Ish Elokim, the Nevuah comes to him, that's the words of Hashem. There's no connection between the personality and Moshe Rabbeinu and his Nevuah. And the reason is because Moshe Adon Kol Nevuah, he purified himself to such a point that the words of Hashem are pure. Moshe has no personality. The personality of Moshe is the wish of Hashem. I think that this is one of the remuzim, one of the hints. We know that the name of Moshe is about Mayim. Kimina Mayim Nishisu, I draw him from the water. What is water? What is the nature of water? Water doesn't have any personality, no identity. It takes the shape of its container. Moshe Rabbeinu is compared to water in its connection with the Creator. It takes the shape of the container. The Kli. What is the Kli? Just something interesting. You know the word halacha, right? Halacha. Halacha is the wish of Hashem. If you notice, the word of halacha is as well, halacha you have the lamed chaf, which is the word the chaf lamed of Kli. Kli, what is it? Kli? Tool, right? The vessel. Halacha, you have a hay at the beginning and a hay at the end. You put the two hay together. Two hay is which letter? 2 times hay is which letter? 2 times hay is which letter? 10. Which letter is that? Yud. So halacha is big math here. Kli. That's the Kli. Where halacha is our keli to serve Hashem. That's the keli, the person. Moshe Rabbeinu is the halacha. He takes the shape of the kli. He's water. He takes the shape of his whole mitzias. He's Ish Elokim. He's the Ish halacha. He's the man of halacha. He has no mitzias with the atzmo. He doesn't have an independent existence. That's asvakari amira. That's why his nevuah is like going through a pure glass. That's our Torah Teres Moshe. Only Moshe can give us the Torah. Because the Torah stands on another level. It's purity in itself, the word of Hashem itself. One minute I get to you. Kol HaNevi'im, this Chazal expressed this idea. Kol HaNevi'im nisnavim b'koi. Koi is like. It's not exact. Chaf. It's a chaf adimli. Koi. Koi HaMashem. So said Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu. Zeh Dvar Hashem. This is the words of Hashem itself.
I was going to say that the clay, when you pour the water from the clay, you are directing it. You're not wasting it. You're directing it.
No, I'm using a mashal. Oh, let's not get mixed up. A mashal always takes one aspect of the mashal. There's the mashal, the nimshal. I'm saying the mashal over here, Moshe is compared to water, and this is a mashal. The nimshal is, so what is it? Water is a mashal on the personality of Moshe Rabbeinu. How is it a mashal? What's the nimshal? That Moshe is compared to water. Like water doesn't have an independent, an individual form, its own surah. It takes the shape of the vessel wherever you put it. So Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have an individual personality. The personality of Moshe Rabbeinu is that he takes the form of the Ratzon Hashem. And that's the remez is that's what halacha is. Halacha is the kli Ratzon of Hashem, the gilui, the revelation of the Ratzon Hashem. He's the ish halacha. That's why his nevuah. That's why his prophecies basbakaria hami'ilo. It's the Var Hashem mamish. Now we needed an enormous avodah to reach this madrega. Now we have the nevuah of Bilam. The Gemara says that Bilam reached the level of the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. Just the difference is Moshe Rabbeinu did it with enormous working on himself. And Nevuah Bilam was a gift of Hashem. He wasn't there. Hashem put the words in his mouth. But the Nevuah of Bilam is on the same level of Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, at least the last Nevuah. That means Hashem put the words in his mouth totally, Vasvakaria Hamidiru, when he has nothing to do with those words. There's no connection between him and those words. Let's get back. The nevuah of Torah, the whole Torah is called Torah's Moshe. And because it's Torah's Moshe, nobody can come and change anything in the Torah. So that's why it's very important. When Moshe Rabbeinu writes down what Hashem said to Avraham Avinu, we don't relate, even if it's true that at one point in history, this nevuah, this prophecy was the communication of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Avraham Avinu. But we don't relate to that communication. That's not Torah yet. That was a personal relationship of Avraham Avinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When Moshe, what Hashem tells Moshe Mipi Agvura, right in the Torah, that Hashem said to Avraham, Lech lecha mi'artzecha mi'lo'aradecha, that becomes the nevuah of Moshe. The nevuah went up. Moshe understands in that same nevuah, to take it even a bit further. Moshe understands in the nevuah to Avraham Avinu more than Avraham Avinu himself understood in that nevuah. Because his nevuah, Hashem gives him over that same nevuah to write in the Torah, Bas Bakar Meira. His nevuah is on a higher level. So the whole Torah is Torah's Moshe. This is a very deep idea I'm trying to give you over here. The Torah is Torah's Moshe. Even when he's quoting other nevuahs, it's Torah's Moshe. It's elevated to because Torah is the nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Torah is not a history book, and it has like all the other nevuahs are bottled. The whole Torah is the nevuah. This is the definition of that Torah. It's Torah's Moshe Bas V'Karya Me'ila. The only exception to this rule is nevuah's Bilam. Because the Chazal tell us that nevuah's Bilam was Bas V'Karya Me'ila, was on the same level of Moshe. And that's Chazal use a lashon, this language. Moshe wrote his book, Unevuah Bilam. He wrote the Nebuah Bilam to Moshe Hu because it's on the same level. It was as Bakari Hamir, Bilam had nothing to do with it. Now I'm going to jump for a second. It's interesting. I'm not sure there are many things created Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmoshos. And one of the 10 things written in Maseches Avos, it's in Perek Chamishi Maseches Avos, is Kfurosei Shel Moshe and the nest of the Pi Ha'atom. The kever of Moshe Rabbeinu is one of the things Erev Shabbos Ben Hashmoshos, the grave of Moshe, and the Atom speaking. I think that there's a connection between these two things. Very deep connection between these two things. In fact, they're 180 degrees the opposite, one or the other. Let's speak about it. What does it mean that it was created as Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmoshos? What is Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmoshos? Shabbos is a day which is not in this physical world. Shabbos, that's why, very important to understand. A guy, Ben Noach, this is just an introduction, not to make a mistake. We have to understand what Shabbos is first, for a second. Short, concise. Ben Noach, Sheshavat, Chayev Mita. What's going on? Either it's good or it's bad. A guy keeps Shabbos, he deserves death penalty. How do we know it? Yoin v'layla lo yishpais. When Noach came out of the teva, came out of the boat, Hashem made him from a bris, he'll never destroy the world again. Noach got a bris, a treaty on the kiyum, on the continuous existence of this physical world that we live in. And that brit, Hashem said to him, Yoim v'layla, never again will the day and night stop. Yoim v'layla lo yishpaisu, they will not stop and rest the day, the principles of day and night. The world will continue to exist. And from that same words, Chazal learn that this is also a mitzvah and as hora, a command on Ben Noach, on a child of Noach, not to create a Shabbos. If he rests on Shabbos, he violates Yoim v'layla. Your job is to build the world. It's a day of rest, now it's a holiday. You are here to this is a world that needs construction. Adara, to the contrary, construct the world. And the Yid, each makes Shabbos, and it's a ois tila, oilam, it's an ois. Brisu veini uvein b'nei Yisrael. You can say that bris Noach and the bris of Klal Yisrael are 180 degrees. They're opposite. Shabbos is a bris, and Shabbos for a Yid is a bris between Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Shabbos for a guy is a violation of the bris of Ben Noach with Klal Yisrael. Ben Noach has a bris, and Am Yisrael has a bris. The Shabbos is the fulfillment of the bris of Klal Yisrael of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Shabbos is the destruction of the bris of Benoach of HaGoyim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's going on? Two opposites. The Shabbos for a Goy is Haforat HaBris. It's going against the bris. And the Shabbos for the Yid is the kiyum of the bris. Because it's two different brises. The bris of a Goy is shaykh to this physical world. He's not allowed to stop the world, to stop the process of this world. A Yid, a Jew, is not in this world. He's here, askei atzmacha beproizda. A Jew has no mokum in this physical world. He's here only as a temporary hallway to prepare Olam Haba. It's a proizda. His place, even when he's in this world, is to be in Olam Haba. And that's why he has mitzvahs. Where's the place of a Yid? On Shabbos. Shabbos, he stops all the physical survival, all the malachas of physical survival in this world, and he turns to Hashem. Oh, that's the place of the Yid. Shabbos is a violation of this world, but the Yid doesn't belong in this world. His bris is a bris that he's shaykh to Chelek Hashem Amoy. He's shaykh to Olam Haba. Shabbos me'ein Olam Haba. Shabbos. That's the bris of the Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael is a bris that they won't go after Olam Hazeh. They're out of Olam Hazeh. They'll only use this physical world as a tool for the next world. That's the bris of a Yid. So they're two opposites. The bris of a Goy is that will construct this world, will keep this world going. The bris of a Yid is they won't be in this world. Will be in Olam Haba. It's two different bris. That's what Shabbos is. It's a bris of connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have nothing to do with this world. We only use this world as a tool.
I just don't understand the proof of how Shabbos.
What?
I just don't understand the proof of how Shabbos for the non-Jew is to continue to work.
Because so it says in Chazal. It says the Goy rests on Shabbos, he deserves death penalty. It doesn't mean physically death penalty, but Misa B'dei Shemayim. Why? They learn it from a pasuk. The pasuk is in Chumash, is in Pashas Noach. It says in the pasuk over here, they learn it from this pasuk. I'm basing this on Chazal. When Noach comes out of the teva, he brings a korban, and after he brings the korban, it says that Hashem smelled reach nichayach, and he said, "I won't anymore destroy the world." And there he says, the processes of the world will continue to exist, continue to be, and that, and he makes a bris with Noach that he won't destroy the world. Yoimel Kibo Noach, Hineni making this brisi yitchem. I make of you a bris. Bakimoisi is brisi yitchem. Then he makes the keshes, and that bris he says to him, I call it Perak Tes, Pashas Chumash Bereishis, Pasuk Chabeis. Oy kol yemei haaretz zera v'kotzir v'kor v'chayim v'kayim v'chayim v'yoyim v'layla lo yishbos. Day and night will not rest. And the Gemara says if a Goy keeps Shabbos, he violates this as well as Karim. He violates the bris of Noach of Yom v'layla lo yishbos. This is pasuk he violates. That the Gemara learns out this Issa for a Goy to make Shabbos from this pasuk.
Which Gemara?
Gemara Sanhedrin. I
So
don't remember which daf.
if they make a Shabbos for another day, it also violates it, not just
What?
So according to this, if they make Shabbos on any day, it violates it.
And the Shittas said, "Machlokes Rishonim." Shittas Rambam is like that. I'm saying it a little bit like the Rambam. Rambam holds like that. That any day, if he fixes a day of rest, even a Sunday, if he fixes a day of, it's not just Shabbos. If he fixes a day of rest as a holiday, like a holiday of Shmita, he violates this command. That Shittas
But
Rambam.
only if he doesn't do malacha. If you go to the beach, they go to the.
I don't know if his malach is like that. Basically, we're going into halachic details. This is a sikha. We want the idea. Philosophy. That's right. How he violates it, this will have to see the place. Another shit. I'll call upon the idea. The idea. So how did I get to this? Just be mine. We spoke about Shabbos, but now how did I get to Shabbos?
Erev Shabbos finished.
Oh, Erev Shabbos. Thank you. Now that we understand what Shabbos is, let's understand what Bein Hashmashos is. So Shabbos is the bitul of this world for the next world. That's what Shabbos represents. Kulei kedusha, kulei ain't totally eitz Hashem. This world is far from Hashem. It's the world of test. What is Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos? The twilight. We know that in Halacha, twilight, it's miktsas yoim and miktsas laila. It has a little bit of the element of the day and a little bit an element of the night. So Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos means it's the twilight zone between Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. It's already out of this world, but it's still in this world. That's Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos. It's Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos. You can't do malacha. If you did malacha, you have to bring a korban Hashem Toli. You have to bring it because it's a suffix. You violated Shabbos. It's suffix Shabbos. It has a little bit of chol, a little bit of Shabbos. Mixes kedusha, mixes chol. Now let's go back. Kivrei shel Moshe. A kever for the goof of Moshe. How do you find a kever for the goof of Moshe? Moshe's goof was physical. Moshe ish Elokim. Moshe, that's what nobody can see the kever of Moshe. Moshe was mekadesh. He purified his physical body to such a point that it was no longer even physical. It was even spiritual. We can't even understand that there can be a kever for Moshe Rabbeinu. So where's the place of kever for Moshe Rabbeinu? Where's the goof of Moshe Rabbeinu? His mitzias is out of Shabbos Bein Hashmashos. He's even in this world. Everything is Shabbos by Moshe Rabbeinu. But 40s it was in this world. So there's something of some shadow of this world rubbed off. That's the twilight zone. There's still a kever, but it's shaykh to Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos. That's by Moshe Rabbeinu. Now let's speak about Bilam. It's such a kashmiyistic goof of Bilam. How can by Moshe there's a kasha like this? How can such a ruchniistic person still have a goof? That's the kasha by Moshe Rabbeinu. By Bilam, the kasha is the other way around. How can such a megushim dika goof have Dvar Hashem? How can such a exist at the same time? There, the tzara choyel of Erev Shabbos, that's also Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos, needed a nest, needed to be something out of this world. It's the two opposites. Kivrei shel Moshe and oh, one second. There's one more dog. It doesn't say Bilam. The Piha Asa. What is Piha? The Piha Asa, the donkey speaking to Bilam, was a nest which symbolized, was a mashal. It was a mashal on the Nevuah of Bilam. The Piha Asay is a Bilam having a level of prophecy of a Svekaya Me'ira equal to Moshe Rabbeinu. That's like a donkey. Bilam saying Nevuah on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's like Vayiftach Hashem. Because like the Aton has absolutely nothing to do with what it's speaking. Aton doesn't have a power of speech. Hashem placed the speech in the Aton, but it has nothing to do with the personality of the Aton. So Hashem placed this prophecy in Bilam, but it has nothing to do with Bilam. Nothing to do with him. He didn't work for it. It's not internalized. It's not part of him. It's not an intrinsic part of him. That's also that's why the Piha Aton, that's the opposite of Kivrei shel Moshe. Like we can't understand how a goof can remain a goof in somebody so purified as Moshe. We can't understand from the other side around how a pet can fit into an Aton. That's Kivrei shel Moshe and Piha Aton Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos. These things are in the twilight zone. That's the twilight zone. Because that was a special nest that Hashem made to show that it's not the Nevuah of Moshe per se. You can have the greatest Chachma of Torah, but if you don't internalize it, if you don't make it part of yourself, then it's not you. It's not you. That's the expression of Chazal. If you take a shas and you put the shas on a donkey, and that's it, and the fact that the donkey has the shas on him, he's still a donkey. And the same thing is, a person can learn the whole shas and know the whole shas by heart like a computer. He can still be a donkey. Because it's not the knowledge per se that's the personality of the person. The personality of the person is how he internalizes this knowledge and how he lives this knowledge. Torah is only a part of the person if he puts it down into action, the amount that he can translate that Torah into living it, Torah's Chaim, that Torah is part of him. To the amount that that knowledge remains an abstract idea in his head, he's compared to a donkey carrying a shas. Because it's not him, it's not his essence, it's not his existence. The fact that he has in his brain some knowledge, it's like a computer that has a disk inside. Is the computer Talmud Chacham? Do you have to get up for a computer when it has a disk? You're even allowed to carry the computer to the bathroom. It's not. Same thing. A person has knowledge. If you can't interiorate that knowledge, and it doesn't influence his free will, he's like a computer with a disk inside. So he has a disk. He has a disk of knowledge. It's not yet Torah. Torah is Torah's time. But, and that was the whole purpose of Nevuas Bilam, to show the Goyim that Klal Yisrael was Zeicha, they merited not because of the tool of the Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, because of the Nevuah per se, the communication. They merited because Moshe Rabbeinu worked on that. He reached that level with his free will. He transformed himself into a person being roy, fitting to receive that Nevuah. There was an intrinsic connection between Moshe and that prophecy. Just prophecy and knowledge in itself don't change a person. Only when there's a relationship between the person and the knowledge through avodah, through work. This is really the main message of Nevuas Bilam of Pashas Balak. Now, let's get back. So Moshe, so now I get back to the original question. Moshe wrote, what does it mean? So let's see what's going on here. What was the purpose of Shibud Mitzrayim? Shibud Mitzrayim was a plan from Hashem. Shibud Mitzrayim was a plan in order to make Am Yisrael fitting to get the Torah. The whole tachlis of Shibud Mitzrayim was to bring the Torah to the world. Hashem has plans. No, so then Bilam gets a pras. He says, let's be Shibud Mitzrayim. It's part of Hashem's plan. Hashem has a plan, but the plan. Ein divrei Torah niknes, ela b'yisurim.